Finally, today, in this video, I'm going to answer to a question that I receive quite often. How to focus in landscape photography. Welcome to my channel. Here we talk about photography and I make videos just like this one, where I share some landscape photography tips that everybody can follow. So, if you are here for the first time, it might be a good idea to subscribe.
Don't say, darling, 'cause you'll fake it. Don't hide the tears, 'cause I know you're breaking. All this love and all this pain you've given. All this love and all this pain, you bring them from another world.
You might have noticed I'm not in my studio. I am in Lake Tahoe. Precisely, I am on the Nevada side of Lake Tahoe, and behind me there is the famous bonsai rock tree. I don't think this tree is as famous as the 𝗓𝗂𝗃 tree, but nevertheless it will help us today with our focus exercises. I love this spot, and as most of the Northern California photographers, I've been here multiple times, and what I like the most is that the conditions change every time. The water level each time is different and it reveals more rocks or less rocks, so the composition can be different every time. And of course, depending on how much snow we have on those mountains behind, also the background changes. So it's always a good bet to come here and take some photos. I am sure that the most attentive of you have noticed that I'm using a different bag. This is the Shimoda Explorer 40. Thanks to Shimoda Design for sending me this bag, and this is the very first time that I'm taking this bag out for a spin. And I'm already very impressed with the quality of the materials, and I have to say that the ergonomics are really good. Let me know in the comments below if you'd like me to do a video review of this bag, maybe comparing it to my other bag, the f-stop 𝗟𝗏𝗏 bag. Let me know in the comments. Alright, but now let's focus on focusing. In my learning photography on YouTube photography course, I will be talking about focus and autofocus. But this video instead is dedicated exclusively to landscape photography. In landscape photography, focusing is very specific. As a matter of fact, 95% of the times our goal is to have in focus everything in our scene, foreground to background, from few feet or less to miles away. And in order to achieve this, of course, there are different techniques. In this video we're going to explore all these different techniques, and in the next video I'm going to share with you 5 tips, as usual, 5 tips to take the sharpest landscape photography images possible. It's getting darker and colder. Nevertheless, techniques. One very popular landscape photography focusing technique is called hyperfocal distance, where the hyperfocal distance is the distance that we have to focus at for any combination of focal length and aperture. It sounds complicated, but it is not. Basically, if you're using a 20mm lens like this one, and you decide to use the aperture f11, You will input this information in a depth of field calculator app. And the app will tell you at which distance you will need to focus in order to have the maximum depth of field possible. The app will also tell you at which distance your near plane will be, and of course it will tell you as well your far plane distance. Another technique that I like to talk about is called focus stacking. And basically when you're using this technique, you are taking multiple pictures of the same scene, changing the focus from near, medium to far away. Then of course you will need to merge this picture in post. Clearly these techniques will require more work on the field and at the computer. So this is clearly not my favorite technique. Another technique that I like to mention is called double distance focusing. And with this technique, you will focus at twice the distance of the nearest point that you like to have sharp. So for instance, if in your composition, your foreground, the elements that you want sharp are at 6 feet from your camera, you will focus at 12 feet. Pretty simple. These techniques works well with mid-range aperture, let's say between f8 and f16. And the last technique that I want to talk about in this video is the one I use the most. I think this technique works really well when using wide lenses and my favorite aperture range, which is between f8 and f11. So let's find a good composition before it gets really cold and try to apply this technique to my photo.
Don't say darling, 'cause you'll fake it. Don't hide the tears, 'cause I know you're breaking. All this love and all this pain you've given.
Focusing at 1/3 of the scene is a very old landscape photography focusing technique. It is very simple. It doesn't require any math. At the same time, you can check into a depth of field table, for instance in the 𝗏𝗏𝗪𝗏 app, where your near and far plane will be. As you can see, in this case I'm focusing at about 4 meters from my camera, and at f8 my near plane will start at 1 meter 18 centimeters, while the far plane will be infinity. I use this technique most of the time. It's simple enough, it's safe enough, especially when using mid-range apertures and wide-angle lenses. And no matter which technique you decide to use, once you take your shot, make sure to review your images on your display and magnify the image so that you can really see in details if everything is in focus. Also, you might want to use a magnifying loupe. It would be a lot easier to understand if everything you intended to be in focus actually is in focus. The sun is set and it's getting really cold now. But we are done for today. Next week I will share with you 5 tips to get the sharpest landscape photography images possible. I hope you enjoyed this video. If you feel like, hit the like button below. And if you didn't subscribe yet, maybe this is the right time to do so. Thanks for watching, and I will see you in the next video.